him. You got a true freshman quarterback and a coach who's played multiple quarterbacks in games before, and a wildcat running back who can throw. How do you prepare for so many options?
Yeah, there's a lot to prepare for, and I think it starts out, with doing a great job and having urgency before the snap and handling our process. And you're 100% right. We got multiple personnels, multiple formations that we've got to do a great job with. Obviously, that will be one of the challenges within the game that we've got to be able to handle, and they're going to do it at a fast tempo as well.
You said they're going to bring Schwartz there. Obviously, coming off surgery, but if he's on the field, even in just carrying the ball, you're talking about potentially the fastest player in the sport. What kind of threat does he present to your defense?
He's the fastest player in the sport, right? So we've got to do a great job on the edges and handling that stuff, and we got to be aware of his location and where he's at, and make sure that, ultimately there's 11 guys playing on the field, and we got to do a hell of a job within any situation and how we pursue to the ball, how we get off blocks, and how we pursue to the ball.
What are the expectations of your defense that they always got to be able to do every game, no matter win or loss? What are those things that you are expecting?
We got to do a great job of communicating in the pre-snap and have an urgency between the snaps to get a line to recognize formations, and then we've got to play with great eye control once that ball snapped and be locked into our keys so that we can handle our assignments. Okay, and then our jobs from there is to make sure that all 11 are pursuing that ball with everything they got, And then when we get there, we want to be a good tackling defense, okay? And then it's about the ball, right? It's about who has the ball in their hands, so it's always about the ball.
Not giving away, I guess, scheme plans, but what are your keys that you best can explain for this game defensively?
I mean, they're going to have multiple formations, multiple personnels, and they do a really good job running the ball. And they got a really good running back and obviously a dual-threat quarterback that can make things happen with his legs. So as in any game, it always starts with defending the run game and establishing the line of scrimmage and fighting up front.
Andy, it's well documented that Malzahn, has a history of being really good at play calling. He went back to doing that himself in the bowl, highly successful. What have you seen? How do you prepare for that? Do you go back and look at old games he called, or how do you do that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of film study, needless to say. Back a few years and just in prep as well, making sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And obviously, coach has been a very successful head coach and offensive mind. So we got a tremendous challenge up in front of us, and the focus of this deal has been on ourselves and to make sure that we're focusing on the things that we need to within our emphasis, so that we're ready to roll.
You're no stranger to big games and lead-ups to big games at Boise State, but does this one feel any different, knowing the amount of national attention that's behind it? It's going to be a Jerry World and all of the kind of ancillary stuff.
I'm going to give you that cliche, everyone's a big one, okay? And yes, this is the first game of the year against a very, very good opponent. The tradition and the success they've had there, obviously it's heightened. We got a huge challenge in front of us.
Trying to scheme against a true freshman quarterback, how does that make your job any more difficult when you're trying to go back and film, try to maybe find an analogous player from Auburn, look at his high school tape? I mean, how do you evaluate those?
Yeah, I think you got to evaluate the offense as a whole, and then, from there, what has Bo done? And obviously, yes, you're going back to high school and things like that he would be comfortable with, And so for us, it's evaluating the offense as a whole and then their key players within it, whether that be in certain personnels and who we need to make sure we identify. But obviously the quarterback's back there driving the bus, so we got to be very aware of what he does well.
Everybody's got trick plays, Andy. Everybody's
Yes,
got
sir.
something unusual, but he's really known for it. How much have you guys looked at some of those, and how much do you have to be prepared for? You talk about trying to keep guys' minds free of clutter, but he presents a lot of eye candy and a lot of clutter.
There's no question. So I think once again that comes down to our communication, being able to formation rec, do a great job of that, and then that eye control. We got to communicate. We got to play with great eye control.
You guys obviously have a nice combination of veteran players up front and then the new talent coming in. Did you feel like during camp you were able to identify enough guys where you'll be able to rotate a lot of guys?
Yeah, we do. We feel like that was one of our goals going into camp that we talked about way back when, is to develop dependable depth. Guys that can execute, number one, our emphasis, which is to be able to communicate on the field and play with great eye control, and then they got to execute fundamentals and techniques that make the scheme ultimately. And so we've spent a tremendous amount of time on that, on the field, in the classroom, and walkthroughs, and we feel pretty good about the depth we've been able to create. We need to continue to improve in some areas, but we're excited about where we're at.
You made a final determination in some of the starting competitions, whether it's KT and Gus or Brady and Nick as to who's going to be out there that first play?
Yeah, we'll see when that ball cracks.
Sometimes coaches know going into a game you're going to play well based on crispness of practice and how efficient they are. What have you kind of seen from this group over the last 6 or 7, 8 days of practice gearing up?
You know what? They've had a ton of focus, and each day it's been better and better. And that's what you would obviously hope, is to build up, to have a natural progression when we're building up. And each one of these days has been better and better. And so we got to continue on. Today was our last practice, so our full speed mental prep. And we're excited about where we're going today. Today was by far our best practice. So, we're definitely moving in the right direction. That's exciting.
What made it the best practice?
The way they handled the pre-snap, the way they played with eye control and got to the ball. Yeah, those things right there are going to be huge factors in the game. And obviously our durability in terms of our stamina and how we're going to be able to be relentless throughout the game, with the tempo and things like that.
Everybody's talking about your guys' O-line and their D-line, but your battle is pretty much just as important. And they returned five starters,
yes.
And their left tackle's pretty well regarded
no
and
question.
real physical guy. How do you try to create blindside pressure against a guy who's just, he's enormous. He's a huge human being.
Yeah, so the 5 returning offensive linemen, and with those guys, there's probably more depth behind that as well, and other guys that they can use in certain situations. You combine that with a good running back, and so their offense is put together with weapons to help support the quarterback starting with the offensive line, and they do a tremendous job.